We're here to bring a new type of news show.
New insights, new styles, and new topics every day.
We are News Generation.
Bringing news just for you. It's Monday, June 6th here in Seoul. I'm Lee Soo-jin, and this is News Generation. Joining us today is Melissa.
Good to be here.
Good to have you, and also Kim is with us.
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday. And both are here to speak on behalf of people in their 20s and 30s. So we're at the start of a new work week, and today we're looking at how our idea of wealth may be changing. In the past, being rich was often measured by income, property, or the things people owned. But in a world where people's priorities are shifting, wealth may no longer be as simple as money in the bank. So, Kyun, what do you think defines a truly wealthy person today?
Well, first of all, being rich and being wealthy have slightly different definitions.
Really?
So
Okay.
to start with, being rich, it means that you have a lot of money right now, high income, and you like to actually spend most of that money, which means that you have more short-term assets. Now, whereas being wealthy means you have more stable kind of financial status. For example, whether you own a property, inheritance or investments, things like that. So more about long-term assets. Now, for me, being wealthy means not looking at price tags when I go out to eat, when I go shopping as well, because, or even when I have to save up months before to go on a trip, especially overseas. So I still feel that fear that time of the month where all my savings, all my income automatically gets transferred to pay my fixed payments like rent, interest, to pay all my bills, insurance, etc. And the list goes on. So I think being wealthy would be, I guess, someone who doesn't really look at price tags and really don't worry about expenses. Which I always worry about every month.
I'm listening to your explanation, what it means to be rich and wealthy. I guess I fall into neither category, unfortunately. So that's quite, I look at price tags, and I don't have a lot of money right now. So I guess
you know what? It's okay because you're still young.
Okay, thank
you
you
for
that. Thank you for that. So what about you, Melissa?
Same goes for me. I agree with you. And I feel like as I get older, I feel like being wealthy isn't about how much money you have. I think it's someone who is fulfilled on the inside. You can have a massive friend group and still feel lonely, or have tons of money and still feel empty. I don't think we can determine whether someone's wealthy or not just by looking at how flashy they are on the outside or how much they can flex. It's about having a solid inner core, being emotionally and mentally healthy. Ultimately, I think it's someone who is confident and courageous enough to actively choose the life they want to live.
I like your definition of wealthy. This is something I feel like I can work towards, hopefully. So financial wealth certainly matters, but it seems many people believe that peace of mind and the freedom to live life on your own terms are just as valuable. So we'll explore this more in just a moment, but first, let's take a look at the screen. The richer society becomes, the harder it seems to feel rich. As the wealth gap widens, perceptions of wealth are shifting. Here in Korea, many people say that even assets worth nearly 1 billion won, around 700,000 US dollars, are not enough to make someone truly wealthy. Today on News Generation, we explore how Koreans define wealth, what's driving the rise of young millionaires, and whether true wealth is measured by more than money alone. Just as we saw in the video, the idea of being rich is not as simple as it used to be. It depends on who you ask, where they live, and what kind of life they are trying to afford. So with housing prices still high and everyday living costs rising, the public standard for wealth has clearly shifted. So what does it take to be actually considered rich in Korea these days, Kim?
To give you like a good in-depth explanation, I'd like to refer to a recent survey by a media outlet asking Koreans how much in assets makes someone truly wealthy. So if you take a look at the screen, the largest share of respondents at 27% said you should have over 1 billion won, or about $650,000 in total assets, and that's including homes, to be considered rich. Now, this was followed by $1.3 million or more at 19%, $3.2 million or more at 18%, $1.9 million at 17%, and $6.4 million or more at 13%. However, when looking at Seoul alone, the most common response was that a person needs at least $3.2 million in assets to be considered rich, with 28% actually choosing this answer. Now, this shows that the standard for being considered rich has risen, clearly due to the rise in real estate prices surging over the past decade or so. In fact, as of June, the average price of an apartment in Seoul was about $770,000, roughly 2 to 3 times higher than the national average. So, like if you own a home in Seoul or even a small store within a retail building, you are definitely considered a rich person in Korea.
That's actually not surprising because of how expensive real estate is in Seoul. So that benchmark is especially striking in Seoul. So as housing prices continue to climb, it seems many people have raised the bar for what they see as true wealth. But the way people feel about wealth and what the stats actually show are not always the same. So then, statistically speaking, Melissa, what does it take to be counted as part of Korea's wealthiest?
If we look at the data from last March, to be in the top 1%, you needed about 3.48 billion won, or $2.6 million. The top 0.5% bumps up to 4.74 billion won, which is around $3.5 million. And to hit the top 0.1%, you would need 9.71 billion won, which is over 7.2 million US dollars. The bar is rising like crazy, right? Sure. The top 1% threshold jumped by 180 million won in just 1 year, and the top 0.1% saw a massive 12% increase, jumping from 6.4 million to 7.2 million dollars. Also, the average age for the top 1% household head was around 63, which is pretty high.
Right, so those figures really put things into perspective. They also show just how difficult it is becoming to join Korea's wealthiest households, especially as asset values continue to rise. But of course, wealth is not only about numbers. And that's why after the break, we'll take a look at this issue from a deeper psychological perspective from our expert guests. So don't go anywhere.
NewsGen wants to hear from you. Go to YouTube and search out channel Arirang News. Click Posts and cast your vote in the poll. Make a new type of news with us.
To help us better understand the economics behind wealth, we're joined today by Shin Myung-gyu, an associate professor of economics at Yonsei University. Professor, thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So, Professor, what is the financial benchmark for being considered wealthy right here in Korea?
Yeah, basically, we can use either income or net worth to answer your question. Income basically tells us how much money a person earns each year, but wealth is usually measured by net worth, meaning total assets minus debt. And in Korea, wealthy households hold a large share of their wealth in real estate, which is an important feature of the Korean economy. Last year, the share was about 70%, which is really high compared to other advanced economies. And if we look at the recent estimates, on average, Korean households has net assets of around 470 million won in last year. But to enter the top 1%, by that assets, according to a recent report, our household needs roughly 3.5 billion won, or around 2.5 million US dollars. Also, the threshold for the top 0.5% was about 4.7 billion won, while for the top 0.1%, it was 9.71 billion won. So the gap between the average household and the very wealthy is quite large. And there is also another commonly used benchmark in the financial industry. In Korea, a wealthy individual is often defined as someone at least 1 billion won in financial assets, excluding real estate. And this is kind of the stricter measure of liquid wealth. And I think it should be adjusted for the inflation rate that we experience every years. But anyway, so these are the kind of the measures that we usually use.
Oh, the cut line is very high, but we also want to ask, how do wealthy people in Korea typically build and grow their wealth?
Yeah, in Korea, wealth accumulation has traditionally followed a fairly clear pattern. People first build wealth through labor income or business income, and then they grow it by acquiring assets, including real assets. And for older generations in particular, real estate has played a central role. A rapid urbanization, strong demand for housing in Seoul and Seoul metropolitan area, and long periods of raising apartment prices made property ownership one of the most important channels of wealth accumulation. And I think the unique system of Korea, which is Jeonse system, allowed people to purchase house with relatively low leverage. And this is somewhat different from the United States, where wealthy households tend to hold a large share of their wealth in financial assets such as stocks or mutual funds. But it seems that this pattern is slowly changing. West Koreans still hold a large amount of real estate, but they are also increasing their exposure to financial assets. And that's what we have seen last year, where stock price has increased a lot. And another important point is the cash flow. Wealthy households often have multiple sources of income: wages, business profits, rental income, dividend, interest income, and capital gains. And that makes their financial position more resilient.
Professor Shin, this is my last question for you. How does Korea compare with other countries when it comes to wealth mobility?
Compared with many advanced economies, Korea has historically been regarded as a country with relatively strong upward mobility. During the period of rapid industrialization from the 1960s through 1990s, strong economic growth, expanding education opportunities, and stable employment enabled many middle-class families to improve their economic position within a single generation. And in fact, studies by KDI or the OECD suggest that Korea experienced relatively high intergenerational mobility during this period by international standards. But, sorry, building wealth has become more challenging in recent years. One important reason is that the asset prices, especially housing prices, have increased much faster than ordinary labor income. As a result, accumulating substantial wealth increasingly depends on ownership, appreciating assets, rather than relying on wages alone. And also, let me finally comment on the interesting feature of South Korea. Income inequality and wealth inequality have been moving in the opposite directions. Disposable income inequality has gradually improved in Korea, partly because of the government policies using taxes and government transfers. But wealth inequality has widened as housing and other assets have appreciated a lot. And that is one reason why building wealth has become more challenging these days.
I mean, as a young person living in Korea, I can relate to a lot of what you said, but I guess I will be working harder to make sure I expand my also a portfolio and also my assets as well. So thank you for sharing your insights with us today, Professor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We just heard why wealth rankings attract so much attention, how Korea's perception of wealth differs from other societies, and how younger generations are looking at money and success in a new way. So interestingly, those shifting attitudes are now being reflected in the makeup of Korea's wealthy population. So then what's driving the rise of wealthy millennials and Gen Zs in Korea? I feel like I see a lot of young, rich people like on social media, for example.
We are definitely seeing them because of social media as well, and of
Right.
course in the news. According to one bank, the number of its customers in their 40s or younger with financial assets of at least 650,000 US dollars has grown by an average of 6% per year over the past 5 years. Now, this growth rate is more than twice as high as that of those customers of 50 years or older. Now, there are also said to be more cases of people born in the 1990s who are actually buying ultra expensive houses in pure cash.
Wow.
And this could be backed by the growing number of workers in Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix actually moving their houses or even buying new houses within the locations, within shuttle bus routes of these respective semiconductor cluster factories, especially after receiving a massive bonus payment thanks to the recent chip boom. Now, furthermore, compared with 2019, the number of people under 40 subject to Korea's comprehensive real estate holding tax more than doubled in 2022, rising from 160,000 to 370,000. So in other words, more wealthy people are emerging among the younger MZ generation than compared to other age groups. But at the same time, we also need to take into account that many of these young people who have purchased these homes, whether it's just through having 100% ownership or through a 전세 system where you pay a little less than the actual price to own a home, they've done it through taking a mortgage loan from a bank. Now, to repay the full mortgage loan payment, it's going to take years until they actually receive full ownership. So we even have this term called house poor.
Right.
You do own a house, but in reality, you're not considered rich because you don't have liquid cash to spend. But you have high assets, but not much liquid cash to spend on a daily basis. So, I mean, there is a big contrast into who is considered really rich or really wealthy.
And there's a lot of fun terms. There's also 영끌,
yeah.
where you're putting all your soul, everything of your life into just buying a house.
Just a single house.
Because it's so expensive, right? So it's remarkable that younger wealthy Koreans are not only growing in number, but also building wealth much faster than previous generations, but it's hard. But perhaps even more interesting is how they are doing it. So how are wealthy millennials and Gen Zs building and managing their wealth?
Apparently, 7 out of 10 millennials and Gen Zs are entirely self-made. Isn't that crazy, right? They aren't just relying on one paycheck. There are just so many ways to make money these days. For example, myself, I have 3 jobs. I'm 엔잡러. It's a huge trend in Korea,
You are
right?
one of those wealthy Gen Zs we have.
I want to be one. But I think it's because I want a stable job, but at the same time, I want to work for a company that I can pursue my own interest and also work in areas where I can constantly learn and build my portfolio. It's a huge shift from previous generations where my dad used to work for one same company for the past 30 years, but us MZs think about job hopping every 2 years or so just to boost our market value and challenge ourselves. Other than jobs, rental income, interest, and dividends are also our income streams. Compared to the old rich who focus heavily on traditional real estate, we prefer financial assets like stocks, where you can see returns instantly and the market moves a lot faster. MZs are also super active in alternative investments like gold, fine art, premium liquors, and crypto. These days, ways people manage their wealth is definitely diversifying, and people are getting very creative with it.
Right, so younger wealthy Koreans are taking a more diversified approach, and they are relying on multiple income streams and looking beyond traditional real estate, like of course you, Melissa. But of course, wealth is not only about what appears in someone's investment portfolio. So beyond the money itself, what traits do many wealthy people tend to share?
So according to a survey conducted in the US, one thing that wealthy people value the most is time, which kind of makes sense because they already have money.
Right.
So they obviously value time more than money. But in the same survey, people with, I guess, less income or wealth place greater value in, obviously, money over time. Moreover, wealthy people also showed a stronger tendency to feel satisfied with their current situation rather than looking back at the past and thinking about what they could have done, what they should have done, or even looking into the future, thinking about what more they can do. So they're very happy with where they are right now. Finally, unlike the responses from less wealthy people, they did not particularly wish they had more friends, or spend more time to study and to become, I guess, more intelligent. So basically it means that they're very happy and satisfied with where they are right now, what they are, and even who they are. So instead of like thinking too far ahead, they're just content with the current situation.
And I guess they're living in the moment, I guess. So that is quite fascinating. So it suggests that for many wealthy people, time, freedom, and peace of mind become more valuable than simply earning more money. And that mindset may also shape how they present themselves to others. So is it true that wealthy people actually avoid showing off their wealth? I know quiet luxury was a big trend as well. So.
They definitely do, and I feel like staying low-key like that is the real flex. In one study, only 11% of wealthy people said they wanted validation from others about their wealth, while the rest said they prefer people not knowing that they're rich. In fact, 81% of the wealthy participants of the survey said they introduced themselves as middle class to others.
I guess staying humble. So it suggests that real wealth may come with less need to prove anything to others. And that brings us to perhaps the biggest question of today's discussion. So beyond money itself, what do you think makes someone truly rich, Kyun?
Oh, it's a tough question, but I think being rich can take different forms. Other than just beyond having just lots of money, looking at the quality of one's life and how rich of a life they're living is very important. For example, having people you love and being loved by people you love at the same time. Having time to enjoy life outside work and also doing work that you truly, truly love and has a lot of meaning to your life. And of course, most of all, being happy and satisfied with what you're doing right now and cherishing the current state with a grateful heart, I think kind of has more greater emphasis and significance and meaning over exactly how much money you have in your bank right now. I mean, it could be one way of actually being happy, having lots of money. It can be a source of happiness because it gets you to do things or,
It's instant gratification.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It gives you like instant happiness as well. But if you look deeper and deeper inside, you see a lot of wealthy people, rich people who don't seem too happy. So I think it's like when people become rich, they're like, oh, I wish I had more time. People who are less rich say, oh, I wish I had more money because they have more time. So in the end, everything just kind of balances out. So if you find that kind of middle ground where you have just enough money to keep afloat and at the same time have time to really enjoy life by meeting your loved ones, your true friends, and to really enjoy what you truly enjoy outside work is, I think, a bit more important than exactly how much money you have right now in your bank.
Right, no, I agree because I feel like it seems like such a cliche thing to say money can't buy happiness, but I feel like once you reach a certain amount of money, it's the same. And it's really the people around you, the people who you have around you, and the memories you make within that actually kind of make you happy.
You can't buy friends with money.
It is true. True friends, you can't. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on this?
For me, I think it's about having that yo-yo.
That's very
Having
true.
that peace of mind. It's about being able to truly look inside yourself, knowing who you are, and genuinely knowing how to enjoy your life. I mean, you only live once, right? YOLO. Making the best out of the life you're given and living it to the fullest. I feel like that's what makes someone truly rich.
Right. So it seems that while money can certainly provide comfort, real wealth may ultimately come down to freedom, purpose, and peace of mind. So before we wrap up, let's finish with a fun hypothetical. So if you suddenly had 10 billion Korean won, or about 7 million US dollars, what would you do with this? Kyun, do you want to go first?
First of all, I don't think I will be here right now. I'll be somewhere else. I'll be definitely traveling around the world because I love traveling and having that thought of not thinking about my budget and of course the time
That's
as well.
a good one, right?
And just being very free with what I'm doing because you get to meet new people, experience new culture, and of course enjoy the local foods because I'm a huge foodie as well. So having that time, freedom, and of course the money. If I had that money, I'll definitely travel all around the world until the money runs out. And once all the money runs out, I'll probably come back and start working again.
That's a good way. Traveling really does expand your
It does,
worldview,
yeah.
though, so I like that as well. So what about you, Melissa?
I think I would give around 100 million won to 30 of my closest friends.
30?
Oh, that's very generous of you.
Yeah, wanna be one of my closest friends?
I thought I was part of the 30 friends already.
You're in the wait list.
Oh, wait.
And I would tell them to take a break from their work because I want to buy a yacht and travel the world before I turn 30 next year.
Oh, so I was gonna actually be like, wow, that's so nice of you to give away that money. But I guess you have a plan of
I have a
wanting
big
to,
picture. And then if I have any money left over after traveling, I would buy SK Hynix because they're the hype right now in Korea.
Right. That's a good way to go about it right now. So I think this is really interesting. So wealth may begin with numbers, but it doesn't just end there. So financial security security can provide comfort, but purpose, freedom, and meaningful relationships are often what make people truly feel rich, and that's a kind of riches no stat can fully measure. So that brings us to the end of today's episode of News Generation, but News Gen will be back tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Korea time with more stories and discussions. Big thanks to Melissa.
Thank you for having me.
And also Q.
It's always a pleasure.
And to our viewers, thank you so much for watching. And while your self-worth is of course what matters most, here's hoping that your net worth also gets a nice boost as well. We are
News Generation.